Hello and welcome to Michael's Minty Music for today. Today we review the soundtrack for Super Mario Bros. 2, released in 1988 on the Nintendo Entertainment System and composed by Koji Kondo. It is available through the Nintendo Music app. This is the track listing, and these are the tracks I added to my playlist. 5 out of 14, so about a third here. This album is pretty good, although it leans heavily on the previously established Mario music from the first game. Also, most of the tracks here are pretty short. The whole album only comes in at a little less than 9 minutes, with no songs longer than 2 minutes. It's still pretty decent to listen to, but overall a little lackluster and not super outstanding. I like that the original ground theme from the first game is now the subspace theme, and the new ground theme is also one of their classic themes. So, yeah, pretty good. Plus, the return of the same, basically, invincibility music is pretty great. You can't really improve greatness that much like that. The opening title theme is a bit meh, but the character select music is pretty good. Overall, some good tracks here, but most of the good stuff is from the first game, which isn't terrible, but not great. My favorite track is definitely that ground theme. It's just as iconic as the original ground theme, but maybe a bit less played, which maybe makes it a little bit more better. But you're still going to know both of them, so it's not really that unknown. Now, I rank this album worse than the original Mario Bros. Soundtrack, mostly because this album literally takes some of the songs from that soundtrack and reuses them pretty much straight. So the originals are definitely sort of superior. There's nothing here that is better than the original music, really. It also feels a little more lacking. It's a minute or two shorter and doesn't have that as many iconic themes as the first game. And for that reason, it's also ranked 3rd out of the NES rankings over Metroid and Kid Icarus, but under the first Mario and Legend of Zelda. I feel Super Mario Bros. 2 has enough consistency to beat out the good things on Metroid and Kid Icarus, because those albums' soundtracks don't really come together great, but it doesn't manage to beat out the iconic tracks on Zelda. Reusing tracks will give you a consistent quality here, but it means the album will never really be good as an original album, in my view. However, this album does manage to take my top Nintendo soundtrack spot from 1988 because it is the only soundtrack so far I've heard from 1988. So it gets the top spot automatically. However, it doesn't take my top spot overall. That stays with Talking Heads' Naked, which is good but not incredible. Still, it's definitely a lot more sort of original and full than this soundtrack. And really, any full album is probably going to beat out the only 9 minutes of this soundtrack. It doesn't take a lot to beat something that's less than 10 minutes when you're talking about sort of album comparisons. Thank you for watching. Next up will be the Super Mario Bros. 3 soundtrack. It released also in 1988 in Japan, although it wouldn't reach the US until 1990 on the NES in both regions. So we'll see if the soundtrack is better or worse than the first two. It also is more complete. It has something like 40 tracks on it, which is the biggest one so far. We're kind of getting out of the 10 to 15 track range. And after this one, we'll start getting into the early Game Boy games, which should be pretty fun. So stay tuned for that. And as always, stay minty.